Here's my full and complete video of how to upload music on DistroKid in 2025. Let's just jump right into it. I hate wasting people's time. There's a lot to cover on this video, and there's a lot of things you definitely need to know when it comes to uploading on DistroKid. Starting off with the services. These are the stores or the streaming platforms or the music platforms DistroKid is taking your music and putting it on. You can see they're pretty much, for most of them, all auto-checked. Couple things I do have to mention. If, let's say, for whatever reason, I don't want to release on Amazon, I can do that. I can uncheck it. I'm going to be honest, unless it's a very ultra unique reason, always have these all auto-checked. Leave it the way it is. I really wouldn't touch this. Another thing I want to mention is YouTube Music. This is a big thing I've been asked about. If you have your own YouTube channel, you can release your music on YouTube Music and also post manual videos or manually upload videos on your own YouTube channel with your music. Don't uncheck YouTube Music. Think of YouTube Music not as YouTube as you think of it, like you're watching this video now on YouTube. Think of it as just another streaming platform like Spotify. In addition here, I have Beatport. Now this is an extra mainly for my EDM artists out there. This will not appear on services, at least not first. Unless you're uploading for the first time on DistroKid, this will not appear here. DistroKid is an add-on, and it's $10 extra a month. So $100 extra $20 a year. So yes, it is a little pricey, because when it comes to DistroKid, it's $23 a year for unlimited uploads. Beatport is $10 a month. Now for me, as an EDM artist, 100% worth it. In addition, I will say this. If, let's say, you have the funds and everything, I think that even, let's say, if you're a rock musician, especially if you're a hip-hop artist or whatever, releasing your music on Beatport, even if it's not straight EDM, can actually be really good because you never know. DJs want to blend maybe dubstep and rock or hip-hop and house or whatever. So releasing on Beatport, I think, is never a bad idea. It's one of the biggest platforms when it comes to EDM. Lastly, I'm going to go down here. Now, I have 3 ones that are automatically unchecked, you may have already noticed. Now, each one of these has a bit of different terms, but here's what it comes down to. If I click Snapchat, you'll say this, or usually this: you own 100% of the publishing rights for this release. Basically, Snapchat can only accept releases from artists with full publishing rights to the music. That usually means you wrote and performed all the songs. I think for most people, it does depend on your situation. I can't speak for you, but for most people, usually you should have 100% of the publishing rights. Same thing with TikTok, right? Same exact thing when it comes to TikTok versus Snapchat when it comes to the TikTok commercial music library. Lastly, I also have Roblox. This is unfortunate because here it says a lot now. Basically, not only is your music going to be put on Roblox, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. But on the bad end, you do not get paid for it. I do think, though, there is something to be said that the free marketing or publicity of being on Roblox can be good. But the unfortunate thing is, you can see right here, you cannot have your music registered with a pro or performance rights organization like ASCAP or BMI. I use Songtrust in connection with DistroKid. I'll talk about that a bit later in this video. But for most musicians, they are part of ASCAP or BMI or some type of pro or performance rights organization, which is why for me, my music's not in Roblox. Hopefully this changes, but I do want to mention that. Very, very important when it comes to releasing your music. Next, I go down here to number of songs. Pretty straightforward. And what I like about the DistroKid uploading kind of GUI or graphical user interface is it's very intuitive. I can upload maximum 50 songs, which actually I will say my seventh? I think my 7th full-length album was 50 songs, actually. So, surprised actually I did that. Took about 3 years. It's all my like non-EDM music. But anyway, you can see one song single. If like I'm releasing, let's say, an album that's like say conventionally 10 songs, I can do that. If I'm doing an EP, 5 songs, right? So pretty self-explanatory there. I'm just gonna leave it as a single for now as a good example. Has a single been previously released? And I think in most cases it's gonna be a no, but if you wanna change this to, let's say, you have released it before, took it down, you could do that. Now going to artist and band name. So I do have multiple, you can see here. I typically release under Futura, which is my main name. And then the Infinite Lamb Chop, which is my other main project, is my AI music. I will talk about AI music maybe at the bare end of this video, but basically, yes, you can release AI music on DistroKid, to give you the short answer. So I'm going to leave it on Futura, right, my main artist as a human, if I'd call it like that. Now here, the first time you're uploading, it will ask you is this artist somebody that already has a platform on Spotify? Now you can see here, because I've been releasing music under Futura for 10 years now, it says you're all set. This release will appear in Spotify alongside your other Futura releases. However, if you're releasing for the first time, it will say like, hey, do you already have a platform on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube Music? In most cases, you're going to say no. You want to create new accounts for this new artist that you're releasing under. And on this point of being a new artist and your artist name, look into this. I've done videos about DistroKid, a lot of videos. I've done well over 100 actually videos about DistroKid, which is kind of crazy to say. And I get a lot of DMs about DistroKid. And the number one topic that I get is changing your artist name. A lot of artists realize that something happened, for whatever reason they need to change it, and changing your artist name, it can be a mess. It can be a nightmare. So a big thing I suggest to a lot of artists is before you release for the first time, really consider, okay, do I like this artist name? Does anybody else have this artist name? If so, don't go through with it, being honest. Is there any legal infraction? Like, is this artist potentially something that's trademarked and that could be a legal issue, right? You want to look into it, and especially for the first time of you releasing, it's never a bad idea to spend a lot of time just to make sure you are certain, absolutely certain when it comes to your artist name. Just got to say that, right? So let's move down here now. Instagram, Facebook, same thing when it comes to Spotify and Apple Music. These will pretty much be no's, although I will say you can connect your Instagram. I've done that. Same thing with Facebook. Now going down here, release date. So if let's say you want to do some type of pre-order, release it, in a month or whatever, you can see right here that setting your release to at least 1 week in the future increases your chances of getting added to playlists. There is a bit of a lag that when you actually upload on DistroKid, it needs to be processed. It gets reviewed by like the algorithm and everything. If there's any issues, it might be reviewed by a human, tough to say. And then it gets sent to stores and there's a whole thing. So a big thing I say to a lot of people is I actually think 1 week is, I think if anything, too short. If I was releasing a new single and I want to be released at a given date, I'd say I'd probably try to do it 2 weeks just to be safe. Because let's say if you go to upload it, DistroKid contacts you saying, hey, there's an issue with this, there's an issue with this, and then you need to fix it. And you upload it again, you're kind of restarting this process. But when it comes to most people, I might just click right here at today's date just to release it right now and then, right? But keep that in mind that I'd give it a couple weeks. If anything, I'd say a month. And maybe you spend that month like marketing, being like, oh, on January 10th, my new album comes out, my new single comes out. I'd probably spend a month just to be safe, Now we go to record label. Now when it comes to the DistroKid plans, it is $23 a year for unlimited uploads, and then $46 or $47 for the other membership. I'm going to go to it actually, just so I have my numbers correct. Where is it? $40, sorry, 40. So it's $17 extra a year. I think the Musicians Plus account is well worth it, mainly because of the customizable label name. If you have the normal membership, which again is $23 a year, going down here, this right here, record label will not exist. This will not exist. The record label is DistroKid. No offense to DistroKid, I just find it kind of tacky. I hate to say it. And one side note, which has not been fixed yet, I'm hoping it does, is on Beatport, even if you have this feature, it's still being released under DistroKid. I hate that. I hope that changes with Beatport. Hopefully in 2025 something changes with that. But when it comes to record label, I do suggest having your own customizable one. Now, here's the thing. My record label is Meta Music Records. I'm the only one on it. I guess me and the Infinite Lamb Chop, my other AI artist. And when it comes to creating a record label, you don't have to have a website, an LLC. Honestly, all you do is think of a label name and then type it in. It's literally just type it in. I could do this. Now I have a new record label name called, however you pronounce that, Records, right? So it's not like you have to do all this crazy stuff. You literally just type in a name. I don't know. To me, I just feel like that has a nice touch. And I've always been obsessed with the idea of things being meta or like meta music or whatever. So Meta Music Records. I feel like it has a nice ring to it, right? Then we have language, pretty self-explanatory, and then primary genre. Now, there's a couple things I want to mention about this. One is, of course, you could pick a couple different genres. We have primary and secondary. The secondary is optional, but it's there if you want to use it. Second thing I want to say is if you are releasing music on Beatport, you have to select electronic. So I'd pick electronic. Once I do, you now notice a new pop-up comes up. And then I pick the subgenre. Of course, we know that there's a million subgenres in EDM if you're an EDM artist. try to pick the one that matches you the best. So like say if I'm doing a dubstep record, I'll just do that. But keep this in mind, because let's say you're like, well, it's an EDM world release. And this is actually an issue that I ran into, where I released an album that was a Brazilian album with a bunch of different Brazilian styles of music, blending EDM and Brazilian music and valley funk and other styles and capoeira and blah, blah, blah. And I picked world, because like technically I kind of feel like it's a blend, but if I pick electronic versus world, maybe I'll pick world. And I had a huge issue with beatport. So make sure that, like say, if you do want to pick like a secondary genre or whatever, if like say it's a hip hop song with EDM elements, but you want to go on beatport, primary electronic, then go here, then maybe just click hip hop, right? Hip hop under electronic, and then maybe do hip hop here. Now these look like the exact same. They're both hip hop, but the EDM subgenre of hip hop gets indexed a little differently. So if you want to go on beatport, it has to be electronic, and then you do have to pick an electronic subgenre. Just keep that in mind for my EDM artists and if you are releasing on beatport. Next, to go here, album cover, as you can see here, a couple different notes, like it has to be a square. I'm not going to talk too much about graphic design in this video, but it has to be a square. There's a bunch of different ways you can create album covers. You know, one, you could take a picture with your phone and do it yourself. You could hire someone on Fiverr or other sites. You could use DistroKid. These are some of the images I made just kind of messing around. You can use these. So I can go to DistroKid, type in anything when it comes to the searching. So I think some of these were like some funky jazz things that I wanted for like a New Orleans vibrant EDM funk style song. One I did about hot sauce I used. I did some AI stuff with Taylor Swift for fun. A breakdancing one. I think this is the one that I used for my most recent album. The rest is just technique. So I have all these, images I can use, and I can just search on DistroKid, and AI will make it for me. I can also go to something like Pixabay. Pixabay is free, royalty-free images, meaning you can use these images for business purposes. Keep in mind that one thing I want to mention, and I'm not saying it's rare, but just keep in mind, is that, like, say if you do Google and you use an image that's copyrighted, there is a chance that your record, your release could be taken down, because it's like anything. If you use copyrighted material in your songs, it could be taken down for obvious reasons. But if you use copyrighted material when it comes to your image, like say this is a famous image, and you take it and use it for your album cover, it could be taken down. So make sure you do want to have the rights to it. It says right here, you own this artwork and everything in it, right? So just something to keep in mind. And in addition, you don't want to have any social stuff on it. As you can see here, stores reject any artwork that contains a website address, Twitter, any kind of like store logos, anything like that. Just make it your name and the release title. That's it, right? Now going down here, song title, pretty straightforward. One thing I want to mention though, and this is where things get a little technical, is do not include featured artists here, add them below. Now, if you're doing a collaboration, this one thing that is unfortunate, it does take up an artist slot. So if you have the basic membership on DistroKid, unless you're doing a collaboration, like say it's Joe Schmo and Bob Smith, that is considered an artist in terms of Stores' eyes and DistroKid eyes as well. So that could be a little conflicting. I just want to say that that's a bit of another can of worms, but just keep that in mind. If you're doing a collab, you may need another artist slot. However, if you're doing a feature, like say it's Joe Schmo and just track one, and I'm just making it up, featuring Bob Smith, you're not going to feature here, right? So that's one thing I want to say. Also, you can see here, don't include the original artist name if it's a cover song. I'll talk about that in a second. New Year's or dates. I add it here. So the featured artist, I could do featured artist or remixer if you want to do remixes. And the featured artist would be like Bob Smith, for example, right? So that's the way that all works. I'm going to leave this here for a second, and you'll see why. I'll just put track for now, because that'll make more sense. Okay, so add version to the title. So this is like, say if I want to do a radio edit. One time I did like a Funkify version, actually, summer version, however you want to do it. That's just up to you. I think also you could do like VIP for all my EDM artists. In case you don't know, VIP is when you almost like re-release one of your songs or remix your own songs, put a different spin on it. Usually like you change the drop or something. So for my EDM artists, you can do VIP here. And then I'll just go back to here. I can upload the audio file. Basically have it be the highest quality you can. So WAV is kind of the standard. I know MP3, you might have it from somewhere else. I know MP3s seem like they work pretty well because they're usually really small. But to make it the highest quality you can, WAV. Spatial audio and Dolby Atmos, I don't think this is as necessary, I will say. I'm going to talk about this actually later at the end of this video, and I'll show you why. I don't think this is as necessary, to be honest. But let's say you made a song and there's a lot of technical parts to it, and you really want to have that feeling and it's, stupidly high quality. You could do this and add it, but you can see here, $26 or basically $27, right? And you can see it has to be a very specific format. So like this is one of those things, if you know, and if you do, go for it. But this is like more for like audio files, if I call it that. Songwriter or cover song. So if, like, say you are doing a cover, couple of things you have to keep in mind. One, you cannot use any of the copyrighted material from that original song. So if you're doing a cover of Bohemian Rhapsody, and it better be good if you're doing Bohemian Rhapsody. If you're doing a cover of Bohemian Rhapsody, you can't use any of the drums, the vocals, everything from that song. You have to create everything on your own, one. Two, you have to go here. Now, here's the way it works. You have to click another artist wrote it. It's a cover song. And this is the way it works. DistroKid makes it easy to legally distribute it. So you can, by the way, you can release cover songs. And it's $1 per month or $12 annually to release it. So keep in mind, you do have to spend that money in order to release that cover song on top of your DistroKid membership. So you can release it, but keep in mind, this is something you really have to kind of just be aware of that's going to cost you a little extra money. And then going down here, Songwriters Real Name, you want to make sure this is your actual real name. This allows you to connect to performance rights organizations, and this is something you want to make sure is very accurate. Just in general, for a bunch of different reasons, I'm not going to talk about in this video. Just make sure that it's very accurate. Then explicit lyrics. One thing to keep in mind is, and this is something that's kind of unfortunate, some stores do allow explicit lyrics, some don't. Some will categorize it differently. And in addition, if let's say you have an album, and let's say it's a 10-track album, and on one of the songs there's a couple F-bombs. If let's say you release that album, by definition, one of those songs will be explicit, right? One of those songs is a couple F-bombs, it's explicit. As a result, that entire album will be categorized as explicit. I think that's kind of unfortunate because if let's say the entire album is clean and one song's explicit, the entire album is now explicit, I kind of get it. But at the same time, it's unfortunate. This is something to keep in mind because I do think this is kind of tough because I don't want to stifle anybody creatively, but you want to be aware that, like I said, there is explicit lyrics. You're not going to be featured in as many places. It's not like any store is going to like shrink you, right? I mean, look at most hip hop artists, look at most EDM songs, like Everybody Effing Bounce or whatever. You don't have to worry about that as much, but it is something just to be aware of that, it's mature, right? Is it a radio edit, instrumental, kind of self-explanatory? This is a big one, is a preview clip start time. You want to click this. This is big because any single time someone goes to preview your song on Apple Music and iTunes, let's start there, this is the preview. So you want to make sure it's like the best part of the song, the drop, the chorus, whatever. TikTok is another big one, especially I'm going to say Instagram as well, even though they're not mentioning it here. Because if let's say someone goes to use your song on TikTok, the preview of that song will be either random, let the streaming services decide, or you can specify. And when you specify it, that's way better because that way when like someone goes on TikTok to use your song in their video, they're going to be able to listen to what you picked as the best part. And one thing for me, I noticed, I tested this out with my own music, and I noticed that when it was random or just the intro of my songs didn't do that well on TikTok. They did okay, but then when I could specify the good part of my song, when I could be like, okay, I'm going to put it right on the drop, or maybe right before the drop, or right before the hook, before the drop, so you hear like, everybody effing bounce, and then the song drops, for example, I got way more people using my music in their TikTok videos because even though they can scroll on TikTok, or you can scroll on TikTok to pick the best part of the song, people usually just click the preview. They do it pretty rapid fire. They're not willing to, go super intense digging to figure out, wait, is this song actually good on the drop or not? So make sure you specify this. This is important. Track price, I'll leave this. Artist mapping. I want to leave this here just because if you actually have a featured artist, you want to make sure that you have the Spotify artist URI, Apple URI, and YouTube Music artist URI. You can see Help Me Find It. You can follow the instructions. If you're featuring an artist on your song, you are okay. And that song should go on your profile, but it might or might not appear on the featured artist's profile. And I know friends have had issues with this because they didn't map it correctly. This is something to be aware of. I'm going to take this off now, but I just want to show you that. Now, going down here, this is new, as you can see. Apple Music additional requirements. This is something that's new for 2025. Apple Music requires at least one performer and one producer credit for each song. I can go here and then I can select performer, right? And I can do anything here, and then I can do producer, anything here. This is very important. I think this is my guess that maybe there is something to be said that where they're trying to crack down maybe on AI music in terms of making sure like, okay, like do you actually have the rights to everything when it comes to this release, as AI music is a bit of a curveball when it comes to most stuff, but this is something that's very new. Now for most people, right, because you need at least one performer, one producer credit for each song, it might just be you. So for me, it would just be Mark Ficero. I'm the producer, right? So I just pick like producer here. And then when it comes to performer, I'd probably just go to, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the song. Maybe in some cases I did have an instrument that I performed, but I'd probably just do like synthesizer, right? So I just go down here. I feel like that probably makes the most sense, right? So I'm gonna just do something like that. This is something that's new. So keep that in mind. You can see to skip this step for now, deselect Apple Music and iTunes at the top of the page. I would suggest not doing that. So at least even like say you're like, hey, like I'm an EDM artist. I did this all on my own. Make sure you fill this out because Apple Music is one of the biggest streaming services. It's one of the biggest platforms. You want to make sure this is definitely taken care of. And then lastly, let's get to the extras. This is the last part of the video where I'm going to be kind of blunt. I don't think any of these are that worth it, to be honest. The only one that I could kind of see, depending on your situation, is leave a legacy. What this means is this. As you can see here, DistroKid will never delete this single. Even if you cancel your account, your credit card is declined. So if, let's say, your credit card gets declined, and let's say whatever reason life happens, whether it's your credit card, for whatever reason, your payment doesn't go through, at some point, your releases will be removed from stores. For this $29 one-time fee, it's permanent. So even if something happens with your payment, stuff happens, life happens, this is something you never have to worry about, is your releases being removed. One thing I want to say that is kind of annoying, and I feel like I kind of get it from a releasing or distribution perspective, is $20 for a single, right? We're doing a single. But let's say do a 10-track album. I'm going to go all the way down here, all the way down here. Doing 10-track album, right? Again, a lot of information you have to give. It's $49. So anything 2 songs or above, 2 to 50 is $49. So let's say if you're like trying to really save money and you're like, all right, I have a few songs. I don't know if I want to release it as 3 different singles or 1 EP and you want to do this. It's $29 for a single, $49 for anything 2 songs and up. Just something to keep in mind. But when it comes to these social media pack, I personally don't think it's that. Let me go back to single actually to show you better prices. But I just want to say that as one example. All right, now let's go back down here. $5 for the single plus 20% of platform ad revenue. I don't think that's worth it. I think you're probably going to lose money in my opinion. Discovery pack, I don't think that's worth it because in case you didn't know, when you release music under Apple Music, it's now automatically put on Shazam. This is something that happened a few years ago where DistroKid was still charging people for Shazam, even though it was automatically being put on Shazam via Apple Music. So keep in mind, Shazam's automatically included with your release now. So it's pretty much, think of it like it's included with your DistroKid membership. Before it was not. Then we have Store Maximizer. I don't think that's worth it at all because you can manually add your song to new stores when DistroKid does add new stores. DistroVid Music Distribution. This one, I think it depends. Like this is $100 a year. If like say you do have a lot of music videos and you go hard, this might be worth it. For me personally, I don't really touch DistroVid, but like say if you go hard on music videos, this could definitely be worth it. And then lastly, one time here, the level of normalization, you can see a one-time non-reoccurring fee. I still don't think that's worth it either. I think if you have a good mixing and good mastering, which you should, by the way, if you are releasing, I don't think this is as worth it. And then lastly, when it comes to important checkboxes, I selected YouTube Music, so I won't email DistroKid later asking, why'd you upload my music to YouTube? This is a big thing. I don't know why, but this is a big question I get a lot. Regarding any store's YouTube Music, just have it checked. Have your music be put on YouTube Music, which then automatically auto-generates a YouTube video for your music. Just do that. And then in addition, make sure that you also release your music manually on YouTube because it's just better overall. It's better overall, better for SEO. This is another big one I just wanted to kind of touch upon, that promo services are not worth it. I know this is more about distribution right now and uploading music, but I just want to mention this. Don't buy Spotify streams. Sum that up. And then, of course, I have a couple other things here. You recorded this music. You're authorized. You've read the terms and the DistroKid distribution agreement. And then you click continue. And you're good to go. Now, once you upload that on DistroKid, it's going to upload your album artwork and your song, DistroKid is going to review it. It's going to be more of an algorithm thing, unless there's an issue, it might be sent to a human. But typically, it scans it, make sure your album artwork looks good, and your song. Then it sends it out to stores. This can sometimes happen the same day, but it might take a business day or two. This is why I suggest if you are doing pre-releases or you want to have a very specific release date, just give you some lag time. Just have some lag time just in case, because you never know. Now, once that's live, at some point you'll get an email saying, hey, your release is live. In addition, on your DistroKid platform, typically at first you will see a yellow dot. A yellow dot means it's pending. Now, if you get a red dot, that means something went wrong and your release was rejected. It was not sent to stores. But in most cases, it's going to be yellow for a certain period of time. Tough to say, maybe an hour, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, tough to say. And then it turns green. That means it's been fully sent to stores. I'd say when it comes to platforms like YouTube Music, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Music, it's usually the same day. Sometimes once it goes green, sometimes within the hour. Once I get that email saying, hey, your release looks good, we just sent it to stores, within the hour. Sometimes with even in those 10 or 20 minutes, it's already on a couple of other platforms. Spotify, I find, takes a day or two, usually just a day. But let's say if I release my song on Monday and it goes live, it will typically be live on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday at the latest. So Spotify, there's a bit of a lag. Something with other platforms. This is a big thing I suggest. So let's say even if you're not doing like a release date, so upload, like say on Monday, and maybe wait till like Thursday to start promoting it. That way, let's say if someone does use Spotify and they go to it to listen to your song, it's not there. They're like, wait a minute, I thought they just released this. Give it a few days. Wait, let's say, if you release it on Monday, maybe on Thursday or Friday, say, hey everyone, I just released this new single. Check it out. It's on all streaming services.